This podcast is being recorded on Kaurna land. We honour and celebrate the strong cultural traditions of motherhood, family and connection to country.
How Motherhood Changed Me is brought to you by Harrison Macmillan, Australia's leading recruitment firm run by women who live by values that make their mothers proud.
No woman can say motherhood hasn't changed her, but every mother's story is different.
I just thought I'm born to be a mum. All I ever wanted, even from 5 years old, when children get asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I just want to get married and have a baby. I just always wanted to be a mum. So there wasn't a question of if I'm going to be a mum, it's when. I was going to go through whatever I had to have a baby.
This is How Motherhood Changed Me.
Hello, I am Kerrie Turner. And I'm Jenna Yates. Hello. So we have a guest in studio today.
We absolutely
Sarah Wright is a wife. She's a friend, a sister, a daughter and mum to beautiful 3-year-old Evie. Her journey to motherhood was anything but easy though, Kerrie, and this story involves devastating loss, but Sarah says she would go through it all again to get her gorgeous girl. So Sarah, thank you so much for being here.
Welcome. You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me.
We like to start off every episode the same way. So we'd love to ask you, what's one word that describes you before you became a mum?
Before I became a mother, one word to describe me. Oh, goodness. Just longing to have a child.
Yeah. We'll revisit that later. But you and your lovely husband, Ben, you have a long and winding story of coming to parenthood, many ups and downs. Take us back to the start. When you first met Ben and I guess the introduction to your relationship and finding out that you wanted to be with him and you'd like to have a baby with him, that all sort of hit you really fast, didn't it?
It did. It all happened quite quickly. So we met and had been dating for, it was just a year and a half roughly, just over when I was diagnosed with cervical cancer and found out that I couldn't carry a baby. So we did have the opportunity to go down IVF and get embryos, but after being with somebody for a year and a half and expecting them to have a family and create embryos with you, it's a big ask. So
it's a big conversation to have.
It was a big conversation.
Yeah.
I think luckily we just knew from the get-go, I certainly did, that he was just the one. We just were inseparable. In the beginning, we spent every single day together and we just had such a good, happy, healthy relationship. And I think we're both on the same page where we just felt that our future was going to involve one day getting married, one day having children. So for him, it actually wasn't really a question as to whether he was going to give me his sperm to create embryos. He was just like, I'm here, let's do it. So he was just amazing. He just stepped up to the plate straight away and was just so amazing and supportive throughout the whole journey. So to have his support, and I gave him the opportunity to run. I'm like, look, this is a lot. You don't have to get on board with this. But he was like, no, I'm here. I love you. This is what I want for my future too. So we're in it together. Let's do this.
They told you that you had a better chance of conceiving with the embryo rather than just freezing your egg. So that was the process.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So the likelihood of them taking from an embryo is higher than if you freeze your eggs and then try to inseminate the sperm at a later date to create an embryo, because they've already been frozen. So there can be some damage to it at that point. So we decided to create embryos so that there was a higher chance of them taking down the track.
So this was all done pre starting any sort of treatment for your cancer?
I actually did undergo surgery first. It at the time was a fertility saving procedure that I had. It was called a trachelectomy. So because I was so young when I was diagnosed and I hadn't had children, they thought that maybe if they did this trachelectomy, which is where they take the cervix and lymph nodes, they saved my ovaries and uterus, that I may be able to conceive down the track. But they knew that I would have to go through chemo and radiation. So it all just depended on how my body reacted post-surgery and chemo and radiation as to whether that was a possibility or not. So I actually had to go to Melbourne for the surgery because there wasn't the team of specialists in Adelaide who could do that procedure. So my parents and Ben followed me to Melbourne. I had the procedure there. I spent 2 weeks in hospital, and then I came back and actually had a post-surgery infection. So it was quite a severe infection that also left a lot of scarring, and I ended up in hospital for another 2 weeks because of that. So after the surgery, I did go through chemo and radiation, and then they did, so I went through, it was like 6 months of treatment, and then they did a follow-up, I think it was an endoscopy, to find out how my body had reacted, what was the scarring, how are my ovaries, basically if I got my period back, there may have been a chance for me to create more embryos and carry. However, that wasn't the case. I went through menopause. So they basically said, look, your chances now of, creating more embryos or carrying is unlikely. So
you mentioned you were young. Can I ask how old you were?
I was 23 when I was diagnosed and 24 by the time I'd finished treatment. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
and being told that
you've
been through menopause at 24.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I went through menopause before my mum did, so we found we found the humour in that. I would be like, Mum, when it's your turn,
you could prepare her.
Yeah, this is what it's going to be like.
Oh my gosh.
So you put your embryos on ice, Sarah. Your beautiful partner Ben, very supportive. You literally put them on ice because you're back to your relationship part, and we're going to, I don't know, did you get engaged?
Yeah.
How did things go after that?
We were just so young, so we weren't ready for kids. We weren't married at that point, so it was all very much planning for the future. So eventually we did get engaged and married in 2013. So once we were married, so we were both 26 by that point, we decided, yes, now we wanted to start having a family. And at that point, we had already looked into surrogacy a little bit, but not too much because, it was quite overwhelming. And on top of planning a wedding, we thought we just wanted to do, one and then focus on the other. So, once we had our wedding and our amazing honeymoon, and then we came home and looked into surrogacy, and initially went over to Thailand for surrogacy because although it was legal in Australia, not many people had gone through the surrogacy process, and we certainly did not want to be the guinea pigs of that. So clinics,
I must admit, Sarah, I don't know a lot about surrogacy, but that bamboozles me that there was ever a point that it wasn't legal here. That's crazy.
Yes. Only in 2009 it became legal. Yeah, in South Australia. Each state is slightly different.
Yeah, different rules.
So interesting.
But in South Australia it became legal in 2009. So, and there hadn't been many, if any, cases in South Australia of surrogacy. So we just decided at that point, we went to Thailand because it was still legal there. We sent all 5 embryos over to Thailand. We transferred 2 to a surrogate, which didn't take. And it was not long after that that surrogacy became illegal in Thailand. And because of that, we had to wait for our embryos to be sent back to Australia because they sort of held them captive. And I think it was for 6 months, and then we finally got them back to Australia, and they had to be further quarantined for another 3 months.
Oh, my goodness.
Before we could continue down the surrogacy process. So, yeah, that was a pretty stressful time, but in a way, a blessing in disguise, the fact that it became illegal in Thailand, but it pushed for the laws to be changed in Australia. So really, I find from that point, the laws became easier for intended parents to find a surrogate. Altruistic surrogacy became sort of more common, and also clinics, developed procedures to guide intended parents through the process. So it enacted a lot of change in Australia in a positive way by going through that.
That search for a surrogate, did you and Ben want someone you knew, or
Yes.
complete
We
foreign,
did always,
unknown person that's coming into your life?
We did always want a close relationship with the surrogate. We'd always prefer to have a surrogate in Australia or better off in Adelaide. So for us, initially doing it in Thailand, it was an option, but it wasn't our preferred option. We would have much preferred having closer contact, actually being able to attend scans and see your surrogate more often and continue a really close friendship afterwards. So again, you could look at it as another blessing in disguise that it didn't take in Thailand, and it gave us the opportunity to look into surrogacy in Australia and find a surrogate through a Facebook forum, Australian Surrogacy Community. And from there, we developed a friendship with a surrogate who is now like family to us.
In Adelaide?
In Adelaide,
Wow.
yes. And that was like even better, the fact that she lived 20 minutes away. And we
Everything's 20 minutes in Adelaide, isn't it?
catch up with her and
Yeah.
her beautiful family whenever we wanted to. So, yeah, it made it a lot easier. And that's how we always envisaged our journey going.
The journey to find Danny, who is your surrogate mum, that took a process though, didn't it? And you would meet someone and then it wouldn't quite work out.
Do you
Yeah.
interview them? Like,
Yeah.
how does it
we
work?
call it sorrow dating.
Sorry, dating.
Love it.
Where do you meet?
Yes.
Speed dating.
So we met through the forum is where
Yeah.
we were sort of chatting with a few surrogates prior to even chatting with Danny. And I guess you start direct messaging each other and do you want to go out for a date? So you meet up for coffee somewhere. And I feel like it's just really important to find that person that you're on the same page with. And again, when I talk about meeting Danny, it's like that same feeling as when I met Ben. It's like I just knew
Wow.
that she was the one. Like you just know in your bones that everything about this person, the way we got on, we were the same age, like we just lived so close, like our family values and what we wanted out of our surrogacy journey and experience, we were just on the same page. So everything with Danny was just made so easy by the fact that our beliefs and values were just so aligned, and our expectations of what we wanted.
Must take such a special person to put themselves forward to
Absolutely.
carry for someone
else's baby, knowing that once you have delivered that baby, you don't take the baby home.
Yeah.
The parents take the baby. That's huge.
And
What
it's
a
also
special person.
It's also wild that it's Facebook as well. That you're finding
It's a
like
marketplace.
Facebook marketplace. Here, have my stomach for 9 months, isn't it?
It's fascinating.
It is.
I find it so interesting, the whole idea. I've had friends that have looked into surrogacy in the past, and there were reasons that they didn't want to do it in a particular state because of the laws in that state, that the mother couldn't have her name. It would be the surrogate's name on the birth certificate.
Correct.
Little things like that that they went, no, well, I'm not doing that. I'm going to look in a different state and see if I can. It's very interesting that it is a state by state legislation.
It is very much. We were that example where Danny and her partner Troy were on Evie's birth certificate initially, but then you go to court and you sign a parentage order, and it's from the parentage order that the birth certificate is changed. And so now mine and Ben's name appear on Evie's birth certificate. We get reissued a new birth certificate with our
And given
names.
that it is your embryo, it is your baby.
Well, this is actually Danny's egg and my
Right.
husband's sperm. So we had 5 embryos. So we used 2 in Thailand that didn't take. And then with Danny, the process, we transferred 1 which didn't take, and a couple of months later we tried with the second, which again didn't result in a pregnancy. The third one they thawed, and on the way to the clinic to have the third transfer, they rang to say that the embryo didn't survive the thaw, so we were unable to transfer the third one, and that was the last of our genetic embryos. So after that we did go through a grieving process, for me more so because I was losing that genetic connection to the child. But again, amazing Danny offered to use her egg, which when she offered surrogacy to us, she never had that intention of using her egg. It was always to use our embryos, and she was the carrier. But I think by that point we had already developed such a beautiful friendship and gone through so much with her, and going through the losses with her as well. It just brings your connections so tight and solid that she just said, no, like, the end goal hasn't changed. The end goal is to give you a baby. So she said, if you are okay, I would like to offer my egg. And of course, our response is yes.
What a beautiful person.
So she is, yes, she is amazing. So Evie is Danny's egg and my husband's sperm,
But your baby.
But our baby, yes.
I love that. It's just so true that you cannot talk about a woman in the workplace without acknowledging the role of mothers.
We're in the midst of a skills shortage, and unemployment is also at an all-time low, Kez. And I wonder if businesses realise the talent and the opportunity with mums.
Well, the team at Harrison Macmillan know all about this, and they can help your business look beyond what's on paper and recruit the best people for your workplace.
They're a values-led recruitment agency supporting over 500 clients all over Australia to find and retain exceptional talent.
They're also committed to tailoring solutions to address your unique staffing challenges, and maybe that looks a little different to what you're used to, but they know the mums have skills.
Get in touch with the team at Harrison Macmillan and see for yourself why they're the best in recruitment. Visit harrisonmacmillan.com.au. Sarah, she's just seen you, and you're made to be a mum, and for her to be part of that journey and to be part of your life still afterwards, that's just so beautiful, and so much love surrounding this gorgeous kid that wouldn't be here otherwise.
That's exactly right. We always wanted our future child to know how much they were loved and wanted in this world before they were even here. That was just such a big thing for us, that they were still made out of so much love. And Danny has actually kept the most beautiful journal of our whole journey, from the very first meeting, actually.
Date?
Yes, including dates and photos and everything, until the moment Evie was born. And she actually gave that to us for Evie's first birthday as like a memento to then eventually pass on to Evie. So yes, Evie will know exactly her story and where she came from and how she came about, but built with love and just had just been wanted for so long in this world.
How did it actually work when Evie was born? So tell us about the dynamics there.
So we went in for induction, and yes, we were all allowed in the room at that point. We had been given an exemption by Nicola Spurrier because it was during COVID times. So
that adds another dimension.
Yes.
Nicola Spurrier being the
Chief Health Officer of South Australia.
Officer, that's right.
So during COVID, we were not initially allowed in the room. However, due to that exemption, thankfully that came through 3 days before Evie was born.
Wow.
We all 4 of us were allowed in the room, and the one word that we described to use the room as well was just love. There was so much love in that room. The midwives, it's something that they say they'll never forget, the feeling. I think, midwives obviously deliver babies all day, every day, but they said the feeling in this room was just something else. There was so much love in that room, and the whole induction, Danny was such a trooper, and I chatted to her recently about Evie's birth and the way she describes it and I would describe it are just polar opposites, but funny, because she would say during contractions, she felt like out of control, and I would just say, you were just so in the zone and in control through my eyes, because we had done hypnobirthing together and I was watching her and we were playing some of the hypnobirthing music while she was having contractions, and we were taught to breathe in for 4 and out for 6. And every time she had a contraction and I was watching her, I was counting her breaths. And she was bang on with 4 breaths in and 6 out. And if she felt like she was sort of not in control of that contraction, we would guide her back to her breath, and then she would get in the zone. And she was just so, for me, it was surreal watching her, because I felt like she was just in her world, in the zone, so calm and just so into her breath that, that's how I would describe watching her. But she was like, for me, she was like, no, it did not feel that calm.
I can appreciate that.
And the husbands are there as well, probably like, what the hell?
What is going
on? Every
on?
other male in a birthing suite, not quite sure how to behave.
What can I do? How can I help? Oh, okay, I'll just stand in the corner.
One thing that helped us all was that Danny gave us all our own little tasks.
Jobs.
Yeah, so
good.
the boys really were to take photos, and Troy was great at taking photos of the whole labour and birth and everything, and Ben also videoed the birth, so that's great to have now to look back on. And for me, just being a support person, I did a little bit of massage on Danny during some of her contractions, and then she just wanted me, once the baby was born, at her shoulder, she wanted me, I guess, within reach, so that she could, touch me and know that I was there and be ever present at that moment. So, which I was. So that was, such a lovely experience to go through with her.
Do you remember that moment that you saw Evie for the first time?
I do. I was in shock, because she came out extremely quickly in the end. So I went into, a tad bit of shock standing next to Danny, and I knew that the baby had been born and was in the room, but my focus was actually on Danny at that moment for her health, just because baby's heart rate had dropped down to 20, but Danny's had also dropped down to 40. Right. So that was, my concern was just Danny in that first few seconds, making sure that she was okay. But eventually Danny was just looking back at me saying, Sarah, you're a mama. And she actually, the baby had been put onto Danny's stomach, although she wanted to wear clothing so that she didn't have the first skin to skin. She wanted us to have the first skin to skin. So she had a T-shirt on, so Evie was put on her tummy over top of the T-shirt, and Danny grabbed my hand and actually placed it on the baby. And I think that's when I realised that, she's here and I'm a mum, because, my hand was on her and Danny was just looking at me saying, Sarah, you're a mama. And, so that was just such a special moment of that, whole realisation that she's here and I'm a mum, and, we did this together.
The journey at that point, we're talking years.
Yes, years.
And I find myself wondering, did you ever lose faith that you were going to get to be called mum? Did you believe it, Sarah? Did you ever give up?
No. I was just probably one of those really just young, determined and people, and I just thought I'm born to be a mum. Like all I ever wanted, even from 5 years old, when children get asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I just want to get married and have a baby. Like I just always wanted to be a mum. So there wasn't a question of if I'm going to be a mum, it's when. Like I was going to go through whatever I had to have a baby. So
I love that.
yeah, I didn't give up hope.
It's just beautiful because it's true. You get that sense from you, just even seeing across the desk from you. You've got, Sarah.
But having amazing friends and family supporting you as well, if you do ever have down days, it's just your friends and family that pick you back up. And as well, you know, when we had failed transfers, just going through that with Danny and having, you know, her there as well to pick you back up and say, you know, it's okay. Like I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. We can try again. So, yeah.
I've been through IVF myself. I'll delve into my story down the track, but knowing what I was like after a failed transfer, and I didn't have that support around me. I had my husband because we didn't tell people that we were in IVF, and maybe that was our undoing. We should have had that support, just someone to call on and lean on.
I think we've always been so open about our journey. Everybody knew what we were going through, and if we were coming up to transfer, you know, a lot of people knew that was coming up. So they would always be there. And if it didn't work, it's like, you know, if you're going to tell your friends and family like that, hey, we're finally pregnant, it's like, why not tell them like if it doesn't work as well, because they can be there to support you during that time as well. So yeah, I think being so open and telling people even when it didn't work, so that they were there to have their support, just made it, you know, easier and enabled us to continue on.
Amazing.
And, you know, thinking about you and those, you know, you had a limit of your embryos, your and Ben's embryos, and obviously how you must have felt in that time when you'd lose those. But with hindsight and this beautiful 3-year-old gorgeous girl, I just wonder, do you feel as though it played out how it was meant to?
Yes, I always just think everything happens for a reason. Those embryos in Thailand didn't work for a reason, and you know, it enabled change within laws for Australia. And talking to, you know, previous surrogates, you know, we didn't connect with them for a reason, but when we found Danny, it's like she was always meant to be the one, and Evie was meant to be our child. So I do believe that, yeah, those embryos, they didn't work for a reason, because she was meant to come into the world, and it all happened the way it was meant to.
Okay, so tell us about Evie. She's born. She's perfect. You get to hold her.
Yes.
How did it make you feel?
So for surrogates, a pinnacle moment of the birth is the handing over of the baby. And so that was a huge moment for Danny. So once Evie was born, yes, initially she was placed on top of Danny, and then they took her away to clean her up and wrap her in that pink and blue blanket that
stock standard hospital
everybody
blanket
gets. And they handed her back to Danny, and we wanted Danny as well to have first cuddles and just have as much time with baby as she wanted, until she felt she was ready to hand over Evie. And yeah, it's the pinnacle moment as a surrogate. It's kind of the reason why they do that is to see the joy in your face when they're handing over the baby.
The biggest gift they could possibly give, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's like, you know, you're becoming the parent, you know, when they're handing the child over. So that was extremely important for Danny to experience the handing over of the baby. And for us, we wanted the revealing of the name to be our special moment to present to Danny. So we had the name chosen for a very long time, and we hadn't revealed it to anybody. We wanted Danny to be the first person to hear her name out loud. And so we chose to give her the first name Evie, as it means life, and her second name Daniela, after Danny, which is her full name. So Evie Daniela Wright was born.
Stunning.
So thoughtful.
Very.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
How does the relationship work with Danny and her family now? Does Evie have a special name for her special surrogate mum?
We just wanted that close, I guess, auntie, uncle type relationship. So we call them Auntie Danny, Uncle Troy.
Beautiful.
And we just constantly, she sees photos and she knows that they're special when they come over. I think amongst friends, we probably see them quite often, and there's more one-on-one time, taking her out and doing things with them or having sleepovers at their house, which she probably doesn't do, with other friends. She doesn't have sleepovers at their house, so she knows that the connection with them is a little bit different and closer, and we do have that auntie-uncle type relationship.
It's really beautiful, Sarah, and I suppose you've lived this, so you've gone through all of the ups and downs. You've probably cried all the tears that you need to cry, but it's emotional hearing it on the other side, because the outcome, you got there in the end, but it was painful going through it.
It was a long journey, but again, as you said, I would do it all again just to have Evie. So I look back now and just think, sometimes I think, how did I do that? But then I look at her and I was just like, she's the reason. And I could 100% say that I could do it all again just to get her. So she's worth it.
In those first few days when you took her home from the hospital, I think that's the part where any mum feels it for the first time. And, you've been in hospital and the midwives are so gorgeous and everyone's helping you and you can press the buzzer, and then you drive home, and that car drive, actually, that's the funny part, because
it's the worst drive ever.
Husband drives about 40 k's an hour and you're in the back with the baby
because it's screaming,
and it's just you're watching it, making sure nothing goes wrong. Then you get home and like any of us, Sarah, like no matter the journey that we've all been on to get to motherhood, you get home and then you're smacked in the face with, what the actual hell am I doing?
Yeah.
How do I look after this small human?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just a steep learning curve, and we were thrown in at the deep end because we didn't have the 9 months of growing, and when you're pregnant, it's like your body's naturally waking you up to go to the toilet and stuff. So we were having solid 8-hour sleeps, and right until it's we bring her home and then we're like, okay, this is quite the shock to the system. But so we were in that sense thrown into the deep end pretty quick, but it was good. With Danny, we expressed, because we had been seeing her every day or every second day leading up to the birth, for us, it only felt natural to continue that for a period of time. We sort of had grown this close bond with her, and we thought it would just feel weird not seeing you every day or every second day. And knowing that midwives were coming to check on her and Evie anyway, we just said to Danny, do you mind still just coming over every day or every second day, just to hang out or just be here when the midwife is coming to have a checkup? And she was like, yeah, sure, if that's what you guys want. And we were like, yeah, we want that. So she did. So it was actually really lovely that probably for the first 2 weeks she would come every second day, and then 3 weeks it was probably every third day, and we slowly weaned ourselves off of each other. But and now we probably catch up monthly, which is lovely. But I think just initially it was really nice to continue sharing those close experiences together, and we just couldn't walk in a room without seeing each other and bursting into tears. It took us 3 months to probably see each other and not cry, because it was just such an emotional birth, and every time we would think about it, we just we couldn't help but cry. So
was it 2 lots of parental payment from the government with did you
yes,
because I'm trying to logistically work out how it all works. So Danny has her own separate one, you get one.
Yes, so Danny got maternity leave to recover from having the baby, and yes, I also got maternity leave as well. So we both got, I think it's the 6 months or something like that, which was good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, Danny needed it, obviously. She'd had the baby, so she needed to recover, and then here I am with the baby, so needing that as well. But yeah, so it was really good that we both had it. And then it enabled us, you know, we're both on leave, to be able to catch up and go for coffee. And I remember our first walk together with Evie and Danny, and just debriefing on like what happened. Like, well, did we just like go through all that? Like,
Wow.
It's crazy. So yeah, it was really nice to actually have that time off with her, and to be able to catch up and debrief on everything.
It's funny, before you were talking about the Facebook group, and I think back to particularly with my first son, when I was pregnant with him, you do find yourself in these forums talking with these other people and sharing your experiences, and I guess finding a little bit of a community there to process what you're going through. And I can imagine it would have been a really special moment for you to share your success story in this group that you've been living in for all of these years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice to finally, you know, put that post up that, you know, she's here, and, you know, we've gone through our surrogacy journey, and, you know, we have this amazing baby, and we had such a beautiful, positive experience the whole way through. And that's really nice as well for Danny to see, you know, all the congratulations like coming through, because she is just like, you know, this is why I did it, to, you know, like see all of this, to see you guys as a family, to, you know, see your family and friends congratulating you. So, and it's also really important for Danny, there's amazing surrogates as well in these forums. So they give the surrogates so much support post-birth, and they actually do a surrogate like care pack for the surrogate after a baby's born. They send her a beautiful care pack. So it was really important for her as well to debrief with other surrogates and have the support from them, post-birth, because there is that fourth trimester that every woman goes through afterwards. And so it was really important for her to feel supported by the surrogacy community, as well as us as well.
Wow.
Life now with a 3-year-old, I mean, that's where Kerrie and I tap in, and we can relate to all of that, those fun and games.
Full on.
Tell us about how motherhood is for you now, Sarah.
We just adore Evie. She completed, you know, our world, and she's just everything we ever wanted. So I always found it interesting, the saying that people can't remember what their life was like before they have kids. And I feel like it's not until you have a child that it finally makes sense. Like, I just can't remember, you know, I was 34 when she got here. Like, how can I not remember all those years? But it's just like, it's hard to imagine life without her now. She's just everything. So yeah.
And you're a trio, you do travelling and you take her here and there, and you've got a very full life, the three of you, don't you?
Absolutely. She is just, you know, such a beautiful girl. She travels well, she sleeps well. You know, she's that, as I said before, perfect mix of sweet and sassy. So I wouldn't have it any other way.
Isn't that cute?
So cute.
Kerrie's like,
sweet and sassy.
Yes, that's my daughter too.
More sass at the moment than sweetness.
And your priorities shift and everything sort of, but yeah, by the time you get through that sort of infancy stage, you kind of settle, don't you? And you find your rhythm.
Yeah, and I love just seeing her little personality come out as she gets older, and all these new words that she's saying or things that she's doing. Like, it just blows my mind how smart they are at such a young age. So yeah, I just love watching her grow. You are such a beautiful surrogacy advocate and voice in this space, Sarah. And I know that this story is going to have a beautiful impact on those who may be going through that, but also others. I mean, I've learnt so much just listening to you talk here today, and even just circling back to the legality of surrogacy. It's just interesting that how things can change in such a short amount of time. From your beginning of your journey to now, things have grown and changed, and you guys have been part of that, and that's something to be really proud of, I think. Yeah, thank you. We were one of the first in South Australia to go through it, and I believe we are such a positive story. So it's nice to be that person giving hope to others now, and guiding them through their journey and how to make it a positive one. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for enabling me to share my journey.
Oh, thank you for sharing it. I love it. Everything you've been through, it was all worth it. As hard as it might have been, it was so worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So happy we got our little miracle girl.
You sure did.
You did. Now, we asked you at the start for a word that describes you before you became a mum. Can you give us a word that describes you now that you are a mum?
Complete.
I love that.
I'm going to cry again.
This is an emotional episode.
Yeah. And it's true. It does.
It does complete us.
There's this sense of, yes.
I'm where I need to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us on How Motherhood Changed Me. We'd love you to be part of the conversation by connecting with us on social media. And if you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review and subscribe.